I just wasn't educated. Even though I was selling the stuff, like most real estate agents, I'll say a very unpopular opinion, but most real estate agents, they don't understand the investing side of real estate, right? They're great at showing houses and selling the product, but they don't understand the mechanics and what goes into building a portfolio. So, I had no idea what I was doing. I just thought, any property, like if it was in a good spot, you buy it and then you hope for appreciation down the road. And then that's how you build a portfolio. I was very wrong.
Hey, fellow savvy real estate investors. We are so thrilled to have Seth Ferguson on the show today. Seth, thank you for joining us. Just to give you a very brief bio of Seth, because I'm sure he'll do a great introduction in telling you all about himself. He is quite a veteran real estate investor. He's been in the industry for over 13 years. He's done a whole bunch of different things, but right now he is the CEO of Multifamily Real Estate Investment, Inc. And most recently, his claim to fame has been throwing some amazing conferences. So last year we were super excited and thrilled to be exhibiting and attending the multifamily conference here in Toronto. And we are super excited for the one that's coming up in 2023, May. So I'll let Seth tell you all about that conference coming up and just, how much great information is being transacted at this event and so much learning and knowledge about multifamily investing, both here in Canada and with a big focus also south of the border in the United States. So without further ado, I will let Seth introduce himself. Seth, thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Really excited. I think that introduction was perfect. Like the shorter, the better. It's always awkward when people read like a huge long paragraph. But yeah, like you said, I'm the founder of the Multifamily Conference, and we're making a really big dent in the multifamily space right now. And then I also, do my own investments, and then there's a couple other things we run connected to real estate as well.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Thanks for being on our show.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about what motivated you way back to, over a decade ago to pivot and maybe buy your first rental property.
Yeah, so that was going way back. I was a real estate agent, a real estate broker, and I was making what most people would consider pretty good money. But I was a young guy at the time, and as the money came in, the money went out just as fast. I had the really nice car. I had this 4-bedroom house I was living in all by myself. So I didn't really have, at the end of the day, I didn't really have anything left over. And one day I was just like, what am I doing? Like, I'm blowing so much money. I have nothing left over to show for it. Then I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And then Don Campbell's Acre System book. Those were the two first books I read. I'm like, you know what? Like, I'm selling this stuff. I'm helping people buy it all the time. I probably have an advantage over 99% of people buying residential homes at the time. I should just start doing it on my own. And that was the start of this crazy investing journey that seen me go, in a totally different direction than what I started out trying to do.
So was it like you purchasing a couple of single family rentals, like most people would get started, and then you kind of, there was a moment where you realized that, maybe I should do something different?
Yeah. So my partner and I at the time, it was your typical single family home investing. So like there was a duplex conversion, there was like a condo, there was like a new construction home, like, basically all the stuff most beginners kind of do. And you think, oh yeah, like this is what you do with real estate investing. I just wasn't educated. I even though I was selling the stuff, like most real estate agents, I'll say a very unpopular opinion, but most real estate agents, they don't understand the investing side of real estate, right? They're great at showing houses and selling the product, but they don't understand the mechanics and what goes into building a portfolio. So, I had no idea what I was doing. I just thought, any property, like if it was in a good spot, you buy it and then you hope for appreciation down the road. And then that's how you build a portfolio. I was very wrong. And the shift came when my son was born. So he's turning 6 this Thursday, actually. So, and I owe everything to him for changing how I do things. Because what happened was I remember I was like holding him in my arms for the first time. And then like I just had like in the blink of an eye, I needed to do more and be better for my son now, because before I was doing everything for myself. And I was like, you know what? Like I've made the most amount of money I ever have owning real estate, not selling the real estate. But I was like hitting a wall, right? Because like banks, they want you to fit inside their tiny little box. If you're self-employed and you have, a handful of rental properties, they need your left kidney, they need like your firstborn son, they need all this stuff just to get financing. And it wasn't worth, like, I couldn't get any more financing. Like the income was there. We had the properties there, but, a couple of things went into that. Number one, residential homes, like single family homes. I was equity rich, cash flow poor. The way the yield's not there. And a lot of single family home investors, when they start out, like they don't understand that they're actually building a weight that's attached to their leg rather than a scalable portfolio. So when my son came along, I was like, you know what? I know real estate's the right thing to invest in. I was just investing in the wrong type of real estate. So I looked at industrial, I looked at office space, I looked at retail, I looked at multifamily, mobile home parks, and multifamily really resonated with me, mostly because of how it performs during downturns. And we're entering into, most likely recession here in Canada. US is already in recession. And the past 3 recessions, multifamily has outperformed every other asset class. So, it's one thing to look at an asset when things are good, but it's a totally different thing to look at an asset, when things are really choppy. And rule number 1 of investing is don't lose your initial capital investment. So, if you're looking for an asset that's going to actually weather the storm really well, multifamily's it. So I made the switch. It made a whole lot of sense to me. And since then, we've got conferences and a whole bunch of stuff that I never thought I would be doing. So it's been pretty crazy.
Yeah, no, that's quite the journey. And I think that it is a similar journey for a lot of people. It was interesting to me when you said, I don't know exactly what words you use, but about how a single family home can be like a weight attached to your leg, right? Like it can bleed. It can make you bleed. It can make you stay up at night. So it is not always, a lot of the gurus out there, the stuff you read, it's like, hey, just take action, just buy something, buy a property. Like, you got to start building wealth. And I understand the sentiment. I mean, we've made a lot of our personal wealth through buying good residential real estate as well. Yeah. However, there is exactly what you're saying, especially with the increase in prices, increase in rates, changes all around. It's very, very difficult to stay afloat with some of those properties, even just break even, forget positive cash flow.
100%. Like I remember there was the drain out to the sewer with this one duplex, and a tree root had gone through it, right? So it needed to get repaired. Yes. The repair bill was $8,000. Oh yeah. That was literally more than 3 years of cash flow for this property gone. So like it was already tight for cash flow to begin with. Like the duplex conversion helped. Yes. But like I just got wiped out for more than 3 years worth of positive cash flow just with one repair. So it's not like, you're totally right. Like it's people have to understand that, one property will affect your next property, and that property will affect your third and fourth and fifth and so on. So, and cash flow is like the lifeblood of real estate. If cash flow isn't there, you can't scale. And with residential real estate, like with the way the prices are, that the rental yields there, we can get into rent control if you want and all that stuff. But like, it's a lot of people are buying these properties in a negatively geared position, which doesn't help. You've just bought yourself like a cash suck, or you're just treading water. But in either case, you're speculating, you're not investing, because by definition, speculating is buying an asset that doesn't produce cash flow, where the only way you're making money is on future growth. That may or may not happen, right? So I think it's really important as beginner investors, especially, to recognize what our actions, like what are we actually doing? Are we investing or are we speculating? And a lot of beginners, myself included, I was totally guilty. I was more towards the speculation side, because that's the only way I could make money in the deal.
Yeah. And especially because of the last few years, right? We've had a huge run in the market. So everyone, whoever bought, last 5 years, or, looked like a genius, right? It was kind of a no-brainer. No matter what you bought, the appreciation alone made you look like a genius.
Yeah.
And in terms of cash flow, now things are pivoting. The market is changing. Rates are at an all-time high. We're now seeing kind of who's going to survive this storm, right? And who's going to be left swimming naked, as Warren Buffett would put it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me about what kind of challenges are investors facing right now, and what would your advice be to survive this?
Yeah. So I think the biggest challenge investors are facing is the unknown question mark, right? When humans by nature, we don't like things we don't know. Like we don't like things where we don't know what's going to happen in the future. And generally, like we see this in the residential resale market, and we see this on the investor capital side. Whenever there's apprehension or questions about the market, people, like, their first reaction is to back away because they get scared. But I think we really have to look at, if I have capital right now and I want to put it somewhere, right? In the bank, it's getting eaten alive right now by inflation. So the bank's out. The stock market, it's up and down. Like I'm not comfortable there, so where else am I going to put it? And it always comes back to multifamily real estate. There's no other asset that can produce the cash flow. There's no other asset where you can control the valuation of the property, where the stability is there, the proven stability through downturns, the tax benefits. If I'm an investor with, $500,000 to invest, like the only place I'm putting that, regardless of where the market is apartment buildings. Hands down, because in my opinion, there's no other asset, there's no other viable option right now for capital to go.
Right.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. So, I mean, honestly speaking, I think that for many investors, the issue is the barrier to entry, right? With multifamily. Because multifamily is like, especially if you're a newer investor, it's like a big kahuna, right? Like for going from even like, let's say you own a single family house to now going into a multifamily deal. So tell us a little bit about your experience with that and how, how investors can get involved in multifamily, even if they are, not experienced in multifamily, or if they only have a couple single families. Because let's be real, owning a single family home and owning a multifamily apartment building, depending on the size, are extremely different things.
Very different. But I'm going to push back a little bit on what you said, because like a lot of people, and I was of this opinion too. Like I remember driving by apartment buildings when I was doing the single family stuff. I was like, there's no way I could own that. Like, you must be a big corporation. Like I was ignorant of the options out there. But a lot of people think that, oh, well, I'll just start off getting into single family homes and then I'll like graduate, so to speak, into apartment buildings. And single family homes, it's safer. Apartments are riskier because there's more going on. I actually argue the opposite now, that apartments are a safer investment for a beginner. And let me explain why, because some people might be listening right now and being, oh, Seth's gone off the deep end. With an apartment building, right, that you have stronger cash flow. Right? With a single family home, you're probably very, very tight or negatively geared. So your wiggle room for making mistakes that affect cash flow is greater with apartment buildings than with a single family home. Also, with management, a lot of people self-manage with single family homes because the property doesn't cash flow if you're hiring professional management. With an apartment building, you're able to have a manager from day one. So as a beginner investor, is it better to do it on your own without any idea of what you're doing? Or is it better to invest in a building and actually have a professional manager help guide you along the way? I would argue again that apartments are a safer investment versus single family homes. And then we just go like, we can go on, but like every time, like apartments win, even for beginners. And like, if I had that time machine where I could go back in time and sit down with myself, I would talk myself out of ever investing in a single family home, because like, I did all the beginner mistakes. I blew so much money. I lost so much money in terms of opportunity cost. If I would have just said, you know what, I'll buy a small apartment building, I'll get somebody to manage it for me, I would have been so much farther ahead than where I am now. So so a little pushback there, because and that's one of the reasons why I'm like doing all the stuff I'm doing, is because a lot of the questions or the uncertainty about apartments is just a lack of education. It's a lack of, knowledge about the space. Just like me, I had no idea what went into buying an apartment building. So that's why I'm doing the conference. That's why, the YouTube and all the stuff I'm doing now is just to get the word out there that, like you don't have to get stuck, buying, 6 single family home properties, not being able to get financing for more and then paying them off over the next 30 years and then retiring off of them. Like there's a better, different way to do it. And that's with apartment building. So it's all about getting the message out there. You guys are doing the same thing, which is awesome. And I think the more people that do that, the more, real estate investors will benefit, because it's all about options. And for some people, single family homes might be what they want to do. That's great. Other people, they buy office space. I've got friends who crush it in the office sector. But for me, and just, with others who kind of share my vision on what I want to do, like apartments are where it's at.
Yeah. No,
I agree. I guess for me, when I was asking that question, I was more gearing it towards, and your answer is absolutely great. I really respect that. More so that, the apartment building space is different than the single family space. I find that a lot of people entering the single family space, they want 100% of the pie and they want to do everything on their own. Shifting it into a mindset of, hey, like now we're shifting into a much larger asset class. I'm not going to be doing everything on my own. I'm not going to own all of it. I don't need to own all of it. It's a team sport. So it's a completely different sort of shift in mindset. And I think that that's what some people struggle with. However, it just makes more sense all day long for financially when you sometimes sit down and look at the numbers. I mean, people who are advertising multifamily, good operators advertising multifamily deals, where you can be a part of the deal, even if you're not owning the whole multifamily building, are offering returns that far supersede anything that people are getting in the single family space. But for some reason, there's this mindset that, hey, like I want to own 100% of it. Like I want to buy this house and I want to own it and I want to run it. Like, I don't know if you find that, but that's the sentiment I get with a lot of investors here, smaller investors. It's like, I own my portfolio. Like I'm going to do it on my own.
Yeah. And you know what? Like, I was guilty of that too.
We all were.
But I think it's, Robert Kiyosaki has his cash flow quadrant, right? Like you've got, you're an employee, you're self-employed, you have a business, or you're an investor. If you want to own everything yourself and do everything yourself, you're self-employed. Like you just built yourself a job. You're not creating a business. And I think, the big, chasm beginner investors have to leap over to get to the other side is, it's all about, treating it like a business and developing the systems. Because if you get hit by a car and you're in the hospital for 3 months, what's going to happen to your business, which is your portfolio, right? Like you have to build those systems. Like in terms of, just accessibility, and investing in other deals, we also have to look at risk exposure too. Because, if you're buying a single family home and you own it, you are incurring unlimited risk. The lender can come after you for everything you're worth, to make themselves whole. Like the risk is all there. Over with apartments, if you're investing as a limited partner, as a passive investor, your risk exposure significantly shrinks to just what you're investing in the deal. So, it's always, there's risk and reward. But again, like it goes back to apartment buildings. Why would I take on unlimited risk for inferior returns when I can invest in an apartment building, get better returns, better cash flow, stronger, more controllable upside, but also really limit my risk exposure? And I don't think risk exposure is talked about enough with investors. And I think a lot of beginners, I certainly didn't know that. I didn't know the true implications of risk and what it means and what it could mean in the event something goes wrong.
Yeah, no, 100% right. I wanted to kind of switch gears and talk a little bit about why you switched focus from Canada to the US. What made you jump to invest cross-border? What were some of the reasons, the pros and cons between the two countries and so on?
Yeah, well, number one, the tax code in the two different countries, the US beats Canada hands down. Like no argument whatsoever. Also, we look at the GDP, the economic output of both countries, Canada's nominal GDP only makes up 8% of the US's nominal GDP. We are like a drop in the bucket compared to the United States. The US is still the capitalist, mecca of the world. All money wants to go to the US. And then we look at opportunities with markets. When we look at major metros in Canada of population 1 million or more versus the US, the list in Canada is like this. In the US, it's huge. So we have, more opportunities in larger metro centers. And then honestly, I like the product in the US. I'm a big fan of garden style. And here we don't really see that because you're dealing with snow all the time and you can't have your pools. Like the pool would be open, 3 months of the year. Yeah. In the US, depending on your market, you may have to deal with hurricanes and stuff. But like the garden style product, we have lots of green space. You've got the pools, outdoor barbecue pits where you can use them for most of the year. I really like that. So yeah, those are just a handful of reasons why. And then we were kind of talking about something else before we came on, but yeah, so those are the reasons why I started looking at the US for sure.
And then of course you've got much more landlord friendly laws.
Oh yeah, well don't get me started on rent control. Yeah. Yeah. So all of my real estate when I was doing the single family home stuff was in Ontario. Yeah. And, you look at, with COVID, what happened, the government has their hands in the landlord's pockets. They can dictate, how much you can raise the rents, what you can do. And there's a number of studies that have been done showing that rent control actually is worse for tenants, where rents actually end up higher in rent controlled areas and renters get an inferior product. So I'm not a fan of the government dictating what I can do with my property. One thing that government has shown us is that the private sector is a lot better at managing money than the government is. The government always makes it worse. So I would rather go to areas where it's more of a free market system. In the free market system, if I invest capital, I am able to get a return from it. The government doesn't dictate, what returns I can expect and how I can recapture the capital I've put into the property and all that sort of stuff. So you raise a great point. I could go on for hours about rent control.
Yeah, I know. And that's the exact same reason why we also decided to switch and invest across the border, because multiple reasons, including what you just mentioned, landlord friendly laws, and the product is available, right? Here you're competing against so much capital chasing after so few deals. So the deal flow is definitely not there, and you're not getting access to these larger unit counts, right? We just don't have the rental stock available because nobody's been building since the 60s and 70s, right?
Yeah, and that goes back to backwards government policy again. Like it's just anytime the government puts red tape down or tries to get involved, the intentions are good, but the outcomes are bad. So because there's always unexpected outcomes, because you can't fathom every impact that's going to come out of one decision. And rent control, it's a great talking point come election time. Certain parties will, be like, yeah, we're going to fight for tenants. It sounds good. Vote for me. But it doesn't solve the issue. It's just it's just a talking point that does nothing. So I'm going to start rambling. So I'll cut that off there.
Yeah. And I mean, it's funny because Jose's been going down to the US for several years now, learning and networking and all that good stuff. But he always used to call it the wild, wild west, right? Because even just access to capital in the US is very different than in Canada. And maybe we can talk a little bit about this because, all of us who are in the real estate space, real estate is a capital heavy business. You need to have access to capital in order to make deals happen. And I mean, the whole sentiment here that we talked about before is it's a team sport. It's not about I need capital to make my deal happen. It's like, hey, let's all work together to bring our capital together so that we can all invest in a really large deal rather than, like you said, all of us buying these single family houses. Hey, Seth, like, let's bring 5 people together or 10 people together and let's go in together on this deal. That's what this is about, right? Buying a institutional asset with a professional property manager who's going to run the asset, and it's going to be mitigated. Risk is going to be mitigated for everybody. All these things that we talked about, right? However, what has been your experience being a Canadian and raising capital in Canada versus, I'm not sure what your experience is with raising capital in the United States?
Yeah. So right now, my investor group is about 50-50. In terms of U.S. investors and Canadian investors, and we were kind of joking a little bit, like it's, even with the multifamily conference and selling tickets, the personality type, Canadians in the U.S. is very different, and if you're just, unless you're selling a product or selling investments, I don't think you really pick up on it, but in our space, I see a definite difference between a Canadian, generally speaking, and an American. And just in terms of, I guess you could call it tenacity or Americans generally want to just get the ball rolling. With the conference, we're selling a ton of tickets in south of the border right now for a conference in Toronto. And then, Canadians are always taking a little step back, and they're always a little bit more hesitant generally to do something. And, hopefully we're changing things with the conference and everything else. But yeah, in terms of raising capital, very different rules. There's no in Canada, everything's provincial. So you have to, even though the provincial rules are generally the same, you have to really watch out. In the US, you've got your federal, then your state level. You've got different offering types, your 506C, where you can advertise, publicly, which is great. So I think for real estate investors looking to go south of the border, if they're looking to bring capital, you just have to make sure that you're on side with both the Canadian, investor rules, securities legislation, and then also the American side, because a lot of people they're raising money and they're doing so in a way that's probably not compliant. so you just want to make sure you're doing things the right way.
Yeah, absolutely. And we found the same way. We found the same thing when we're raising money from Americans versus Canadians. Canadians, tend to be very timid. They want to take several weeks to think things over.
More conservative.
Conservative. Yeah. Their risk tolerance is much lower, I would say. So yeah, it definitely been a bigger challenge for us, versus the Americans. They're okay, let's just go ahead and do it, that type of mindset.
Yeah,
it's very interesting, and perhaps
one of the
reasons might be maybe Americans generally earn better. That's one of the reasons I can think of.
I think they also have more disposable income because, and oftentimes their cost of living is lower. In the GTA, we have one of the highest cost of livings in the world, right?
Oh, it's insane. But I think culturally though, not to get too esoteric or whatever, but I think in the US you celebrate big success more, and in Canada we don't really celebrate big success. It's almost better, more culturally accepted to be more humble about it.
Yeah.
So it's in the US, it's I'm celebrating. I own $500 million of real estate, blah, blah, blah. Everybody's applauding. Hey, I want to be that guy. In Canada, it's he's bragging. I want to listen to the person who's just a little bit more humble and who owns 15 properties and not $500 million. That's exactly how it goes. It blows my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
you're right.
Oh, you're right. And I mean, maybe we need to start changing some of that dialogue, right?
I'm trying so hard.
100%.
I'm trying so hard. Yeah.
Yeah, no. And it's wonderful and commendable that, you're doing this and taking the initiative. So maybe we could just talk about that real quick. Where did this idea come from? I know you were in a bit of you had TV experience and that sort of thing. So you were comfortable doing, public appearances and stuff, but never been in the event space. So what pivoted that sort of interest, and how did you get that event together? And it was just at the brink of, COVID ending.
Oh yeah, that was a nightmare and a half. But yeah, so the event came from my now fiance and I were sitting on the couch watching Shark Tank, and I'd always like toyed with the idea for a couple of years. Wouldn't it be cool to have like a real estate conference, like an apartment investing conference? And like, like lots of ideas, you have them and then they just kind of sit on the back burner and you never revisit them. So we're sitting in her apartment, and COVID had just hit. So like no cars on the road, the place was deserted. We're watching Shark Tank. And I turned to her and I said, Darcy, I'm going to have Kevin O'Leary speak at a real estate investing conference. I don't know what inspired me to do that. I was just like, you know what? This is what I'm going to do. And she looks at me and she's like, yeah, whatever. Because I always have these big, crazy ideas. And I'm like, no, I'm serious. And a couple days later, I had Kevin O'Leary booked and confirmed for a real estate conference. And that was kind of the start of it. It grew a lot bigger than I thought it would, which is a good thing. Because I think like, we've got Grant Cardone coming in 2023. And like, I owe a lot to Grant in terms of like just go bigger, like the 10X thing.
Yeah.
Because like, if I would have set out and run like a small, like 200 person gathering, it would not have attracted the same excitement. We wouldn't have had the same speakers. We wouldn't like, everything is just better on a bigger scale. Yes. And that's why we're 10Xing what we did last year again, just to get even more. And so, that's what inspired the conference. And it's really, I just think back to when I first started looking into multifamily. I had no framework. I had no strategy. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know what books to read. I just was lost. And I think a lot of people, like, they would love to invest in apartments if they just knew how and what the benefits were. So the whole goal of the conference is just to educate people and get the word out there that, like apartments are a very viable investment opportunity and probably kick the butt of everything you're doing now. And it's not only to bring beginners and introduce them to apartments, but also, successful operators. Okay, well, now let's scale your business. Like, let's get you from 100 million to, 500 million, or 500 million to a billion to 3 billion. That's what it's all about. And just bringing investors together from Canada and the US in one spot, because I think everybody wins when we bring the best minds from both countries together. So like lots of exciting things happening with the conference. Like, we got Grant Cardone and Alex Rodriguez. A-Rod, like, everybody knows him from baseball, but he owns over 15,000 apartment units. So like, he's a huge multifamily investor. So I'm very, very excited for 2023.
Yeah, I know.
Exciting.
That's amazing. And kudos to you for thinking big and, 10Xing this, that mindset, because like you said, it's probably the same amount of work whether you do a 200 person event versus a 2,000 person event. But obviously 2,000 person would bring a lot more excitement, a lot better speakers, and generally a better experience for the audience, right?
Yeah, for sure. You just have to add a couple zeros to your spreadsheets. Yeah. But it's the same thing going from like single family home investing to apartment
100%. Exactly. I was just going to mention that whether you're buying a 10 unit building or a 100 unit building, it's at the end of the day, you just have to kind of wrap your mind around thinking bigger. And like, Kevin was great last year, very professional, like, loved working with him and his team, and like Grant's team, A-Rod's team have been great so far. And like the excitement we're getting, like when you're going big, like my goal is to turn the multifamily conference into the real estate event anywhere in like North America. Like, if you're going to a real estate investing event, you have to come to the multifamily conference. So we've got really big goals for it. But like the excitement that generates, my staff is so excited for this event, and because we're going big, like they're putting like 200% into the event, and they're all bought in because we have that big vision. So I think like as I'm going to steal like a Grantism because he's the speaker next year, but like if you aim for like
let's say raising $10 million for your first deal and you only raise 8, sure, you didn't hit your goal, but you raised a whole lot more money just by thinking big, right? Like same thing with the conference. Like we've got really big goals for attendance and all that stuff. Even if I don't hit those goals, like we're still outdoing like any real estate conference in the country. like
100%.
Like the conference we're putting on, like there's no other event like it in Canada. It does not exist.
Oh, and for Toronto being a major metropolitan city, there's a huge demand for it too, because there's a lot of capital out here, a lot of people that want to get educated in this multifamily space. So that's amazing that you're doing this.
Yeah, and I have to say we have to visit your booth in 2023
at the
conference.
So I'm going to be an exhibitor again this time. And last year, I really liked Joe Fairless as well, because again, his mindset about how he grew to multi-billion-dollar company is just absolutely amazing. And he's such a humble guy. If he can do it, he's inspiring other people can do it as well, right?
Yeah, like Joe's a friend of mine. Like I love him, and we had our speaker dinner like the night before the conference, and all the speakers we went out to a nice steakhouse and stuff, and Joe brought his daughter and his wife, and nobody knew who he was, like all the other speakers, because he just came in with his flannel, like his plaid shirt and everything, and he's introducing himself, and sure enough, like it's Joe Fairless. And, speaking of partnerships, so Joe Fairless controls over $2 billion now of apartment buildings. He's doing partnerships with Blackstone. So they've signed an agreement. They're going to be doing a whole bunch of deals. So like even the huge, mega companies, like Blackstone, Joe Fairless, $2 billion plus, like they're still figuring out how to do deals together with other people. So like in terms of the mindset, it's not just going from single family homes, doing it all on your own, to now partnering with people. Like the partnering aspect is going to be with you as you build your portfolio to $2 billion. Like you're still partnering and leveraging other people for sure.
Yeah, like this whole idea about collaboration, partnering,
teamwork.
This is what I believe that the Canadian investors are lacking in a big way.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that a lot of it has to do with our rent system here and like our inventory, all these things we talked about, because there's just not enough, right? So there is like still that competition. Like we were in the multifamily space here before we went into the US, and we were like dealing with like multiple bids on buildings. And a lot of the times it's interesting that you may know one or two of the players at the table for sure, because they're friends of yours. They're people who are in the investment space. They're people who you talk to, or you've been on their podcast, or they're people we know. And so like the collaboration is it's because I think there's just also some scarcity in certain ways here, right? Whereas in the US, there's so much abundance, right? And, it's like, hey, if I don't get that deal, then there's like 3 other deals that I'm going to go offer on, right? I'm going to be underwriting multiple deals because there's all these different cities. So I don't just have this one city that I'm tied to. Like there's other cities here that make sense for me. So I can just, pivot. Like it's a very different mindset of abundance. But also something interesting that you hit on that I just want to kind of end off on here is this whole concept that, hey, like, it's okay to dream big. It's okay to have big goals. It's okay to talk about those big numbers. It's okay. It doesn't take away from your humbleness. It just is the next big thing to strive for, or that 10x goal that, why can't you do it? Like Jose said, if Joe Fairless can do it, like I can do it too. That's motivational, right? It's not, you got to take that and you got to feel motivated from it. And I think that's the beauty about multifamily is that, hey, like there is just so much that can be done and the sky is literally the limit. Just as hard as you grind and as much as you learn and as hard as you work, you can get to those numbers too. Like you can, if you're starting out from having a couple single family houses, it's okay to say, hey, like I want to own 100 million in real estate in the next 5 years. And that is achievable. It is completely achievable.
Yeah. And people will be drawn to your big vision. That's the one thing, like I've done so much learning over the past couple of years, like doing this stuff. Like if you have the big vision, people will be attracted to you just for having that vision. So like you owe it to yourself and to those other people to talk about your vision, because that's how you inspire others. Like, no joke, like every single week on my phone, I get messages from people who came to the conference. Like a guy sent me a message yesterday. Like he thought he was done with real estate investing because he owned I think it was like 8 properties, like 8 single family homes. He said he came to the conference and he's like, he's done so much since then with apartments just because he came to the conference. Like if I didn't share my big vision, he wouldn't have been impacted, and now his family's better off for it because now he's basically doubled his net worth, which was pretty good to begin with. Like you're doing a disservice to not only yourself, your family, but also like society if you're not talking about your big goals. And I never used to do that. I was like your typical Canadian where you just like keep it to yourself. But now I'm learning. I've learned so much, and it's so important that you talk about your goals, where you want to go, share with people, because that will inspire others and that will help them in their life and help them do what they want to do too.
Yeah, for sure. So, just as we sort of wrap off, maybe you can tell us, so what is your big goal? Like, where do you see yourself going in the next 3 or 5 years? And, I know you shared with us your goals for the multifamily conference. Maybe you could just tell us like, what do you see happening in the next several years?
Yeah. So our 5-year goal is I want 10,000 people, bums and seats in 5 years at the multifamily conference. And that will put us in the top echelon of major events, like in kind of any industry, but we want to be the event to go to. And just, I'm competitive. I'm gonna blow everybody else out of the water in terms of like, production value, speakers and all that stuff. And I think doing that will help a lot of people because, the bigger it is, the more exciting it is, the more people talk about it, the more people can get exposed to the message. And that's what it's really all about. Like that's the sneaky thing. Sure, we bring in the big speakers and we make it look good, but it's just getting the message out there about apartments. Like that's really what I want to get out there to people.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah,
amazing.
absolutely. Yeah. No, that's great. So I urge everybody to go and check it out. Can you buy tickets online right now?
Yeah. Multifamilyconference.ca. Ticket prices go up. We're 30% off right now for another, I think 12 days, something like that. And then they'll tick up again. So lock in now and reserve your seat. And VIP, I think we're 30% sold out for VIP. So you definitely want to check out that option.
100%.
Awesome.
It's a great event. I can, speaking from experience, ton of
you haven't
great
seen anything
value.
yet. This is like thing 10x from last year.
10x
I know. I'm really excited about it.
Absolutely.
For sure.
And so, Seth, if people want to get in touch just with you, follow your journey, what's the best way for them to? You have a YouTube channel and you have a podcast.
Yeah. The best way is go to youtube.com/Seth Ferguson. Okay. And if somebody's interested in, hey, I'm brand new in apartment investing, like how do I get started? I have a free blueprint somebody can download. It's called Your First Apartment Deal Blueprint. Totally free. Like it's a download you get. You just have to go to spyformula.com and you can download that. And hopefully that gets the wheels turning in your brain and helps you out. Yeah.
Okay. We'll definitely link that in our show notes as well. So definitely check Seth out, follow his journey, go to his YouTube channel. Lots of good educational material there for you to check out, and come to the multifamily conference next year. We look forward to meeting you as well. Yeah. Really excited to have you guys on for a second year. That's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks so much for your time and being on our show, Seth. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. You guys do a great job.
Thanks, Seth.
Thanks.